You can take them out whenever you want. Look more of them there now. You can divide it between them. And Robert, the same thing to everything.
Yes. I always
you know, I didn't do control. I wonder, right?
How many crowns is it?
What? I said 50 pounds. That's 50 pounds. Yeah. I suppose we'll give the truth to women. Ah, you have some?
Good food. Up.
Oh, no, it isn't. I was here before.
What? If we are, I never thought after all my years in the bog that I'd be pictured there.
That's Farrell by. Thank
No. Go on, that's how I think.
Right, so, ladies and gentlemen, for months, most of it organising it, getting teams together, getting sponsorship, organising food, and getting the whole programme together. So we're very fortunate, as I said, to have a man like Paul Kennelly. I described him yesterday in Radio Kerry as the David Bellamy of Finoog and of Kerry and indeed of Ireland. He knows more about the bog than anybody around the place. We are very fortunate that we have an expert to put it in place. So now I'll hand you over to Paul Kennelly, who is going to take the programme from here. Now, could I just ask you to cooperate fully with Paul, because any teacher wouldn't like to have this type of task organised, 5 or 6 teams to get it going here, and again, spreading turf and laying it out, again, demands a lot of cooperation. And there are pikes and schlons and spades around there, so again, the children, I would like if the parents could keep the children away from the pikes and the schlons and so on.
Much easier to strip that fog than to stop talking. But anyway, listen, we'll start. We'll put for about an hour. We have about 6 teams, including a ladies team from right here.
Hip hip!
For about an hour. Then, what we'll do next is we'll have a little walk around the bog, around the perimeter of the bog, and if any, after that.
Hope we get in.
That's all that's put in the bog.
Richard, big up your. Gentlemen, vad stänger du det så? Vad är det?
He's getting good here now.
6 forward. Young ways and crew. 6 forward.
Now we'd only be getting better. Thank you.
Keep your hand into the bank, will you? That's it.
Yes?
Get back, you'll go fast run. Get back with the schlag. Get back. Klaas, wij doen hier een Robert de Relic, doe je? Wij doen een Robert de Relic. Allee, maar dat doe je. Ja, no. Next year we know better.
96.
Liam, we're open the gas go on the kitchens for this. We'll be able to do you mind?
Very tight between about 6 teams. But Paul has decided now that while the judging is going ahead, and there's a very important job to be done down here on the left as well to get the tea ready, we'll go on the walk. So Paul will, it's about 20 minutes long. Everybody will be guaranteed to get back here again for the tea time for the tea. So we're going that way. Either way.
That's right, keep it back. Right.
Get your head up there, yeah? The height is from the stair. And we got on the circle then. And there's a lovely stair.
Were you going to the actress at first wedding? One of the girls that worked with him. All right.
On the way home. On the way out.
Gina was there.
Didn't want any distraction at all other than what was happening on the end.
Yeah.
About the break in the bog walk, but of course we forgot to tell you that we'll now take the collection here. If you thought we got you out here for the good of your health this morning, you were desperate for it. No, just under us coming walking through the bog that some people mightn't be too familiar with what happens here, or with the flora and the fauna. I don't think there's too many birds flying around this morning. But Paul is an absolute expert on all the things, the plants that grow here. He isn't, but he is. So just the common ones that you might see as you pass by, for those who haven't, have never before seen them, might know the names, and who have seen them but never thought of asking about the name. Paul will just give you just a fast few words on them.
We were just coming up there now, the sundew, the little lad that catches a fly. He's everywhere. The scabies, the lovely blue flower with a little head in it. There are all kinds of flowers, and of course, most of all, the connivon.
Cotton.
If any of you were trying to cut a root of that, when you cut and tuck, you wouldn't call it a nice plant. Then you have two types of heather in the bog. You have the bog heather and you have the bell heather. And the bell heather for thousands of years is the the plant that created the bog. Because it's the best plant of all to farm a set it up. And if you see there in the bog that there's lines up and down the bog, it means that you had 10,000 years of sunshine, 10,000 years of awful bad weather. And it takes about 10,000 years to make one set us up. Yet we can destroy it. How many sods of we destroy below there the sea this morning? We can destroy it. It is a pity if all our bogs are going to be wiped out with machinery and otherwise. And they found a plough, a wooden plough, they took it to the National Museum in Dublin. It was 1,200 years old. And one part of the plough was made with ash, and the sock of the plough, the part that cuts the ground, was made with oak. And it was, I suppose some vagabond stole it from his neighbour and dumped it into a bog hole until he come at it again and forgot about it. But it was there preserved for 1,200 years. It will tell you what the bog can do. The bog is the most wonderful place. We were all crucified in the bog as young lads. And I tell you one thing, we have forgotten about the bog only for Sean McCarthy, because he never stopped talking about the bog. He never stopped telling us the beauty of the bog. He spoke about it, he sang about it. And there's a lot of people think that Sean is only a ballad singer. No, you're wrong. Sean was a lover of nature. He loved nature, he loved the river, he loved the wildflowers. He was always trying to get Carol to say it. Do any of you remember the Blonio blocks, the little primrose? It was always called the Bonobo blocked, and Carol would always go back and she couldn't pronounce it. But the bog, there's nowhere like it. There is, I suppose, looking at somebody over there who was, lived in the bog always. And it took years to appreciate what we had at our own back door. We had everything plastic, we had videos, we had everything. But we have nothing as nice as, look, that simple bog. There's nobody to stop you at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, at 4 o'clock, walking the length of that. Nobody will say you're trespassing now, they'll say get off or get out of it. They'd be delighted to see you. I think it's one of the loveliest places on earth. No, it's almost Tate. And, of course, the perfume from the bog sallia. The same man over there that I met on top of the mountain over in Wishcott the other day with the glasses. We were watching the hen harriers. There's no hen harriers here. There was the lark, and the lark generally goes up at 12 o'clock. But when the crowd are around, he's shy. He'll go up again at 3. Lift, lift, lift at 12 o'clock, and you don't need no watch.
Quintus Gill is going over to the tea over for that group.
No, we'll continue on. The next stop we'll have, a lot of people might just like for 1 second to see it, Sean McCarthy's bog. I often cut up with him, so there's several of the lads there cut up with him. He'd give you a day, you'd give Sean a day. In the good old days when we were cutting with the slan. We'll stop below at his bog just for a second, and then we'll proceed cautiously for the tea. just to see how that works.
Can't get any rubbish in the bog.
Dad, we can put the rubbish in the fire.
Would burn his hands. See? Do you want to come over and have a rub the donkey?
I know. Yes, yes.
Take that off.
Okay, lads,
First prize. First prize for the best slan. First prize goes to the women's team, Peggy Sweeney's team. First prize for the best slan goes to the Clare team. And believe it or not, we have another first prize. And that goes to the SB. Who's there? Will the SB team come up here for first prize?
Are we in overtime? You want to slow the football field, will you?
No, we have another first prize. And that goes to the Derry team from Derry Bog. Will the Derry team come up here quick? Derry? Derry? No, the football killer, where's down at the bridge?
I hope this was not fixed now for that first prize. I hope that was not fixed there now.
But every move, they pretended they weren't. They were dead serious. There was very near being a rear up between the three judges a minute ago. One of them threatened to throw the fell into the back hole. But anyway, after a lot of arguing and fighting, they finally came to a unanimous decision. And the Golden Slan Award, goes to the one and only Patrick Sheehan. Sorry. And I forgot, there was one final first prize that I forgot about. And that goes to John Lyons' team. Where is John Lyons?
Well, John. Well, John.
Friends, when I asked the ESP for a few bob to buy the plaques, I got on to one man. And I said, will you give me a few bob for the plaques? Jesus, he said, no trouble. And that man came from Beaufort this morning to be here with us. He's the district manager of the ESP. And he's standing there. Not alone to see that, but he's a Rahi man.
Ladies and gentlemen, when Paul asked me would the SB help with today, and it was a very small help we gave, a few pounds for the plaques, I had no hesitation, because the SB has had a proud record of being associated with turf. Whether it was in the start when we helped the turf-fired power stations, we still have one in Kerry, down in Delis, in Carsevine, and it's the only one in the country that's working. On sod turf, the rest are all the mill peat. I was delighted for the SB, but I was most of all delighted to publicly recognise Paul and the other ESB people in Listowel and right throughout the company who are so busy and so involved in community activities. And congratulations. I think today there's a great thanks to Paul for organising today, a thoroughly enjoyable day, and thank you very much, Paul, for inviting me to do it.
Tell him you're a Rahi man, will you?
And
he's a Rahi man.
I am not a Rahi, I'm a Tuan Guiha man.
A Tuan Guiha man.
Near enough.
I suppose, thanks Pat, thank you very much. I suppose if ever anybody talks about or thinks about Sean McCarthy, they think about one other person, and that's Peggy Sweeney. And if you think about Peggy Sweeney, you think about Sean McCarthy. And the last thing Sean did before he died, he wrote a lovely song, and he asked Peggy to record it because he knew he was going to the end. And Peggy's here, and she promised me faithful she'd come up here on this platform and sing it for us now. Peggy Sweeney, come on, girl.
Well, Peggy.
Long love, the hours grow weary, youthful memories soon fade away. A voice keeps calling from days of your love, magic moments of yesterday. Do you remember sweet September, young love searching for a golden thrill, and the days so merry when we plucked wild berries on the virgin slope of a Kerry hill. The time is fleeting, the new moon peeping, stars are dancing with heel and toe. An old man's story recounts the glory of the brave deeds of long ago. Children, listen with eyes that listen. Fish jump high in a mountain rill. Lovers walking and softly talking, all alone on a Kerry hill. I often wonder, where are my school friends? Some have gone far across the sea, and some are weeping or in the churchyard sleeping, lying safe where the wind blows free. Can they hear the banshee wailing in the moonlight, soft and still, or hear a piper softly playing forgotten airs on a Kerry hill? I often dream nights of fairest Nora. I hear her voice in the summer air. I see her green eyes filled with love light, moonbeam shading her golden hair. I walk the green land by the meadow, near the long, long silent mill, to place a wild rose on the green grave, where she lies on a Kerry hill. And I remember the green hills burning, when the strangers with cold eyes came, maidens sighing and young men dying, like wildflowers crushed in the summer rain. Then the bells of freedom chiming, a moonlit meadow where young men drill, a green flag flowing, a trumpet blowing, loud and clear on a Kerry hill. I must away now from the green groves. My time of talking is surely done. My bones are weary from life's long journey. My time of being is nearly gone. To hear again the piper playing in the moonlight, soft and still. Now no more grieving, I am a-leaving to say goodbye to my Carrie Hill.
She's going to sing a song that... going to sing it. I hope you all enjoy it. No, Peggy.
Right, I hope I remember the verses now.
A bit of it.
Place where I was born, there eagles fly the summer sky to greet the smiling morn. Fenwick, Fenwick, oh golden mood, your meadows wild and green, with the soft kiss of moonlight on the cross near Coonalleen. I knew a boy named Donalogue with hair like golden corn. I loved him in the winter time and in the summertime, my Donalogue and me. There is a cabin by a glen, the place where I was born. There eagles fly the summer sky to greet the smiling morn. Fenwick, Fenwick, oh golden mood, your meadows wild and green, with the soft kiss of moonlight on the cross near Coonalleen. Thank you.
The legs are long enough anyway. It is now DSP crowd to get up there and do it.
Seeing the we're in the bog, I'll sing the Nat in the clear air. Dear thoughts are in my mind, and my soul soars enchanted as I hear the sweet lark sing in the clear air of the day. It is this that gives my soul all its joyous elation as I hear the sweet lark sing in the clear air of the day. I shall tell her all my love, all my soul's adoration, and I think she will hear me and will not say me nay. Hear the sweet lark sing in the clear air of the day.
na bien pronart na kosnish ta de fadun bapa son roivenir tan braife tiaktar solja så tril harmir beganarge na til tedjarga som sper na pil began kaga krera de grim nagna begak lian schler fuideran is moin der kre
Some of you might know him, some of you might know him. I know Danny with years. And Danny has piped all over Scotland, all over Ireland. Yet when I asked Danny to come to the bog, not only he come, but he brought his father with him and all. And Danny said to me, the last thing I'll do on the bog, he said, I'll play a lament for Sean McCarthy. Now, before you go, Danny is a very unusual little lad. Because Danny, like many more, was unemployed. But then he didn't sit in his arse. He built a lovely little heritage museum. And if any of you ever go to Ballybunnan, it is there opposite the Garda Barracks in Ballybunnan. And he's the most wonderful two-room museum you ever looked at, with artifacts going back hundreds and hundreds of years. And I think it is one young fellow that should be supported. Should be supported for his effort if they're not alone.
Before we leave, and then he's going to play the lament, and that should be the last thing for Sean McCarthy. Jimmy Deehan, who's a rather busy man, asked me to know would I say a few words on his behalf, should be being chairman of the committee. He had to rush off to other business. But I'd just like to just say a few words of thanks. First of all, I suppose thanks to each and every one of you for coming out. I mean, there must have been over 200 people here. Thanks to all the good people who did the catering down here. The bog is one great place. If you have any complaints about, you know, that you can't eat or you've lost your appetite, a couple of bowls in the bog and that solves all problems. If there are any doctors present, don't listen, please. You know, Sean McCarthy, we were talking a couple of years ago, how could we pay tribute to Sean? And a number of us got the idea, you know, what were the things he was happiest at? Certainly in the bog, walking along Finook Bridge, looking over Finook Bridge, tickling a few salmon out of the river, telling stories. And here's another trick too, you know, this one is to ring my wife up, and it'll be a long conversation. I was getting worried about it for a while, but then I said maybe I'll let him at it. But Sean would ring up and he'd want to lift to Tralee, and he'd say, Mary would take the message and I'd go and collect Sean. And he'd say, God bless you, I must go to Tralee for no bit of crack. I've a few women to do. And I know Father Brick is around, but I was a bit tickled with this. But doing the women was interviewing women for the Kerryman. He had to call them McCarthy's women. But I think it's great that Sean has passed on, unfortunately. But he's left a thing behind him. He's left something. He's left an occasion for us to come to the bog. And I know all the ladies present they were very, very busy this morning, and all the things you should have done, and all the dinners you should have cooked, and there are a couple of men out there that had things to do with cows and everything, and we all had something to do. But you know, we've enjoyed ourselves, and all the things we should have done, they all happened. And it's good to be able to get away from normal living and come out to a place like God's own country like this. And you know, I just think to myself, walking around the bog of the characters that I was fortunate enough, I suppose, to have to be able to work with in the bog. Well, I suppose work, they didn't think I was working. People like the late Joe Sheehan, who had a language all of his own about Titcher McClock and Larry the Boggs and Bill Garras and things like that, which I don't think anyone ever knew, but they were all fictitious characters that they lived out there somewhere. And Moss Murphy, who used to come to the bog and in front of the grotto over in Killicream, would get off the bike, take off his hat, and he'd join his hand and say, Blessed Virgin Mary, Queen of Bog Workers, pray for us. And then there was another man, Ned Saverthought, they've all passed on, but when you'd be coming towards the evening, you'd be starved with the hunger, and Ned, of course, would play the game. There'd be no tea now this evening. This gentleman here on my left is also bears testimony that he starved young fellas out of the bog. But Ned would say, what do you talk? Shut up, he says, what tea do you want? Every Saturday turf there's a bar of chocolate. But you know, all these people that have gone. But it's great that we have. Lynch said he didn't give too much money, so Paul, maybe there's a message there for next year. But I think from the money that they provided by the ESP, I certainly have, and I'm sure you have had a great morning. And again, thanks to you, and thanks to Paul, and I suppose thanks to our host, Mr. Sheehan, who walked away with the golden schlon for the use of his bog.
Thanks, Martin. Thank you very much. When I asked Danny to come to the bog, I told him the story about Sean McCarthy. Listen, he said, he got his biro and he got his paper, and he wrote a lament for Sean McCarthy. And this is the first time he's playing it in public. And we'll close by Danny playing, up here Danny, but we'll play a lament, he'll play a lament for Sean McCarthy, his own composition. You're all right.
Oh, I'm cool. After all, I haven't seen you for a whole year on. This is my sister Grace.
out here to Finuge this evening for this very special occasion. There are people out there from all over the world, mostly friends of Sean McCarthy, but also people who come along as tourists and I suppose with a certain amount of inquisitiveness for here this evening. You're all very welcome to Finuge. It's a friendly place and it's a place of the welcomes. We like to feel that way about it. Now, this evening is a special evening because not alone are we unveiling a bust to a great man, a great writer, a great individual, but also it's historical from the point of view that Sean McCarthy is the first writer in our Kerry that has been honoured in this fashion, and I think that is very significant. So hopefully, following this, all our other writers will be honoured in a similar fashion. Now, you might ask why we decided to put Sean up here. Well, Sean for years sat over there in that corner, usually talking to people like Patrick Sheehan and some of the old folks here, but also to a large number of tourists that would come along and would inquire about the thatched house or inquire as for directions or whatever. And Sean would entertain them there for hours on end. Also, he used to wait there for the mobile library service, which used to come to Finuge that time. Unfortunately, it doesn't come anymore. And also at times for the post too, to bring him news from America, maybe from Carl or whatever. So that was a very significant spot. But we decided to put it here because it was in the centre of the green. That they no doubt will engage in conversation with Sean and convince themselves the following morning that he did, in actual fact, speak to them. Now, very briefly, what we are trying to do is build a programme of events around Sean McCarthy. We are trying to revive the ballad, both the writing of the ballad and the singing of the ballad. We are trying to revive the tradition of the storytelling. I think that's nearly gone in North Kerry. We are trying to bring it back. And also the art of recitation, which again is diminishing. And all these things are diminishing because of television, because of videos, and all these other attractions now that young people are again faced with and influenced by. So we hope, following the success of this weekend, to go into the schools in North Kerry and to encourage the teachers to again reintroduce ballads and recitation and storytelling to their young people. And we hope to have competitions for young people around Christmas time in order to start that program going. Now, as well, we hope to expand our program in future years. Now, tonight we are very fortunate that we have Alice Taylor to unveil this bust. And I think it is very appropriate because I understand that Sean had a significant influence in encouraging Alice to publish her first book. I understand that he gave her a lot of confidence to go ahead and write. And since then, Alice Taylor has never looked back. She has her novel, I think, her first novel sold more copies than any other novel in this country ever there. And also, Alice and Sean, they had, I suppose, one connection that people may not realize. Alice has a great understanding of special people, of people with a handicap, and Sean, as we know here, had a very special association and relationship with a special child here in Finuge. And I think we all remember Sean as much for his work with young Morris as we do as a writer. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will now call on Alice Taylor to unveil the bust to Sean, and then we will have two further speakers before we'll have Carol, Bryan McMahon and John B. Keane. So I will now call on Alice Taylor.
I think I must be a very brave woman, or else a very foolish one, a Cork woman, to come in here into the middle of Kerry geniuses and decide to unveil Sean McCarthy's bust. But I think that Sean I would have been nervous coming here tonight, but I remember the first time I ever came to Writers' Week. Sean was there, and I had been an attic writer for years, and I never came to a workshop or did anything in public really. And then one day I got very curious and I decided, what are they all doing back in Listowel? John B, Bryan McMahon, all these names that I'd heard of, and was very impressed by. And I came very nervous, and I went into a poetry workshop. And that particular week, in Writers' Week, for some reason there were very few Irish people at that workshop, and there were Americans and English people, and I sat there and I thought, I said to myself, Taylor, I think you might be out of your depth here. So that night I was at a book launch in the school, and standing beside me was Sean McCarthy. Now, I had never met Sean McCarthy, but I had seen him on television, and he looked down at me from his great height, and he said, how are you, girl? And I said, I'm fine. And he said, how are you enjoying Writers' Week? And what are you doing here? So I said, I'm in a poetry workshop. And he said, how are you getting on there? And I said, well, I think I might be a bit out of my depth here. And he frowned at me and he said, girl, he said, don't you be blinded by literary bullshit. So I took that memory of Sean McCarthy home with me. And I think what he was saying to me was, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the day the night, thou canst not then be false to any man. Because I think that was Sean McCarthy's strength. He was himself in all situations. And I think people react to that. They knew that in Sean. And I think that's why it's so fitting that Sean's bust is being unveiled here in this corner. I mean, often people, their busts are in libraries, national parks. Sean belongs here in the heart of his own people that he loved so much. I mean, he has such pride in this place. And I mean, he travelled all over, but still came back here at the end of his days. He was a bit like the hare whom hounds and horns pursue, pence from the place for whence the first she flew. He came back here, and he loved it. And there was something very special, I think, about Sean, because any friends that came to Writers' Week with me always talked about him afterwards, about his sense of fun. And I think that his songs, he captured the essence of rural Ireland, I think. You know, there was sadness in them, and there was joy in them. That was a wonderful tribute to an ex-teacher, that they were that close together. And he always spoke about Bryan with great kindness. And I think that Sean McMahon, or Sean McCarthy, I get mixed up now with my great men, you see, that Sean, I think, carried out what John B has always said. John B to me is the man who coined the phrase, don't ever let your second leg go very far from the cow dung. And I think, was it Bryan said it? It was John B I heard saying it the first time. I think he was quoting Bryan. Think where man's glory most begins and ends. And say my glory was, I had such friends. And he had great friends. But I think in order to have great friends, you must be a good friend. And Sean was a good friend to a lot of people. And I think if you were going up a slippery hill and Sean was beside you, he would put his hand out to pull you up beside him. And I think this unveiling here this evening is typical of Sean, because rural Ireland, I think at the moment, is going through a bit of a famine, a psychological famine. It is a very bad PR. And I think this is a magnificent gesture. And I think it will lift up the people in this community, and it will lift up the people who will visit and look at this. And they will say, isn't it wonderful that a rural community had such pride in itself, and it's one of its own sons, to do this. So this is one of the reasons that it gives me great joy to come here and unveil this bust of Sean McCarthy.
Sounds very strong.
Well, there.
And also to the people with whose contributions that we could, again, put this up here tonight. People contributed very generously.
You saw me jostling there with John B. King to know which of us would go last. That's a very important thing to have. You know, if he comes after you, he has the upper hand. He has a whole lot to talk about age before steam or snail before steam, but that was his fault. Well, we're here on a very happy occasion. It's a time for smiles and laughter, because Sean was the essence of it. And I think if you want to sum him up in one sentence, you say, he dared to be himself. I think that's important. He dared to be himself. I knew him since he was as big of a bee's knee. And he was that size. All the McCarthys that are here tonight had merry, mutinous eyes. I never fell out with him, but I had an odd jostle with him. I remember in Mary B's one night of the races when Sean was hopping the ball for me, and a big crowd there, he looked at me and he said, here's in the man that often belted me at school. And that was untrue, I never touched him. But he put it on as a kind of an act, you know, to get the better of me. And I looked at him and I said, McCarthy, if I had you back, I'd crucify you. And he said, and what's more, I said, I'd teach you manners to a venerable schoolmaster. And he looked at me and he said, just have to get the better of that fella. So we had good times together, lovely times together. We miss him, we miss his voice, we miss his going with his message back to town. We miss everything about him, and his deep chuckle. He chuckled away in his throat and everything, he laughed at the world. I'll tell you a story about him which reveals him. He told it to me one time, I don't know if I told it before. He found himself in the Far East fighting a war he knew nothing about, like the good soldier Swike. At that, and he went and had a few gargles to relieve the tension of the battle, and he says he went up a long alleyway, not knowing where he was, and he saw an open door with a light and a whole lot of people in white sheets all around the walls, and they were all singing songs. And in the middle of the floor there was a big sofa covered with a white sheet. And when his turn came, Sean sat down and gave him the rocks a bone. Oh, rise up, lovely Sweeney, and give your horse some hay. And give him one good feed of oats before you go away. Don't give him soft white turnips that grow on yonder lawn, or else he won't be able to plough the rocks a bone. And he said his suit was all patches. There was nothing of the original fabric left. And suddenly he got a letter from America, from his lovely cousins, elegant cousins, that they were coming along. And the neighbors got in and they brought him and took the suit off him and brought him into town and dressed him up in a new suit. And they took him down to Shannon Airport to welcome the people from America and told him to be on his very best behavior. And when they came on, to his astonishment, he found that they all had patches sewn onto their trousers. And he said, what did I take off my patches for? So these people are full of patches. So he went back and he was happy ever after. He is in great measure due to Sean McCarthy. I found myself the night of an All-Ireland final in Senna pub in Listowel in the very distinct. It's a lovely occasion indeed, a happy occasion. We always remember Sean with a smile, and I'll finally thank Alice for coming to us. She's a great person. She writes about the ordinary people of Ireland like ourselves. And I'll finish with a quotation. It goes like this. We are like soldiers all, marching along life's dusty way. If any man can play the pipes, for God's sake, let him play. Sean played the pipes. He made songs. Everywhere I go, people call me and they say, how's Sean McCarthy? How is he now? Do you remember him at all? Of course we remember him. I know a house in Dublin, whenever he was on the radio, they knocked at the walls to tell each other that he said that he was there. God be good to his happy, merry soul, and may his songs live forever. Long.
Ladies and gentlemen, I compliment the 100 McCarthys here, so I would like to welcome all Sean's brothers and nephews and nieces and all here. You're very welcome here tonight, and all his relatives. So now I'll hand you over to John B. Keane. Thank you, gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a beautiful evening. Before I spoke there a while ago, myself and Bryan were arguing as to who should go first or second, myself or himself. But I never minded him, and he agreed with an old maritime law, which he used to quote himself when he was teaching us. That is, sail always precedes steam. So for that reason, he spoke first. But this is truly a wonderful occasion, and my memories of Sean are very fond ones. And I think that this is an idyllic occasion as well as a historical one, because it means that eventually myself and Bryan will be busted as well. Passion in Monday Fanook, he said, and I looked down. And I saw my muse below me in the water smiling. And I smiled back at her. I came down, then he says to Tierney's, and I got blotto. And when I came back, he said, I looked for her. And all I saw was a black face grinning up at me. And he always said that was one of the reasons, apart from Carol's beauty and kindness and generosity and understanding, that he went off the booze for good. There are many stories associated with Sean, but I think the greatest of them is a one which is often quite wrongly attributed to Paddy Drury, but it isn't, it belongs to Sean. And always will be. And I think that the warmth in his heart is reflected here this evening by the attention which you have paid to our speakers here this evening, the respectful attention which you have shown us. At the mid-hour of night, when stars are weeping, I fly to the lone vale we loved, when light shone warm in thine eye. And I think oft that if spirits can steal from the regions of air to revisit past scenes of delight, you will come to me there and tell me how love is remembered even in the sky. Then I sing the wild song it once was such pleasure to hear, when our voices commingling, breathed like one in the ear. And as echo far off through the vale, my sad hours unrolls, I'll think, O my love, 'twas thy voice from the kingdom of souls, faintly answering still the notes we once held so dear. Thank you.
Hold you up because I know you're raring to go and to get on with the crack, as Sean would say. I just want to thank everyone in this community, all the friends at home and abroad who contributed to this bust of Sean. And this community, and by that I mean this North Kerry, meant so very, very much to him. And I'd like to think that his contribution will not be forgotten, because he did contribute. He loved the country, warts and all, and he did so much for all of us. I have one brief story to tell, which I think summed up Sean's reach, as it were. My son was recently in a hotel, an Irish-owned hotel in Washington, D.C., and he got in conversation with the waiter, who was a Cork man. He said his mother lived in Kerry, and he wanted to know how and why. And he said, well, my stepfather was Sean McCarthy. So the waiter went and spoke to some gentlemen at the next table. He came back and he said, those gentlemen would like you to join them. This is the extraordinary part. This man's introduced himself as a publisher from New Orleans, Louisiana. His name was Bryan McMahon. No relation to our Bryan. But he said he met Sean McCarthy in 1971 in John B. Kane's pub in the Stole, and that he never forgot it. It was the most brilliant evening. Everyone was singing and having a good time, and the crack was going on, and everyone was doing their twist, as it were, and it came this gentleman's turn, this Bryan McMahon's turn, and he said, oh, I can't sing. I don't know any Irish songs. And Sean said, yes, you can sing. He said, I don't know any songs. I don't sing any. He says, well, sing an American song. And he says, I don't know any American song either. I don't know all the words. And he says, yes, you do. Summertime, and the living is easy. And he gave him all the words of Summertime. And that was 23 years ago, and he never forgot that night in the Stove.